that's not part of our church. They love the Lord. So some of the characteristics that I think that my parents revealed to me that stood out: faithfulness. They were dedicated and committed. They put Jesus first in their priority and to teach their children. There was 5 children here, as you can see. Notice, you probably don't recognize me there because I have hair in that picture, but they saw the importance of us children. When we was small, there was a literature evangelist or colporteur that came by, and he was selling books. When she seen the book, my mom seen the books they had, like a Bible story, the 10-volume Bible story, she thought, boy, to have them. And also the bedtime stories books, because they thought it was important to teach their children to love the Lord. And so they invested in that for us children. They also, even though they were going to church faithfully, they wanted to even learn more about the Bible. They were willing to take Bible studies. And through that, they gained an understanding of the Bible truth, like the Sabbath and other truths that our church has that other churches don't. And they were willing to accept those teachings. The most amazing part is they were willing to act on that conviction. That is something, it's kind of rare today, right, to see, especially somebody in the same situation they are. How many would leave church that you were heavily involved in? Your mom and dad, brothers and sisters are all going there. How many would be willing to step out and go a different direction? That's kind of rare. So that is one of the traits that I've seen that it made a marvel upon me, my thing, and also sending us to a church school as well. But their love, passion, generosity, always willing to help, forgiveness in our family. In a lot of families, sometimes you do have arguments and problems in families, but our family was one who worked through, and we never had issues with not speaking with one another. So I believe God's that work in their life there had a great effect upon that. Now, the second one I'm going to share with you today is my first school teacher. My first school teacher I had for 4 grades. This picture here, probably taken in 1964, is at church school at Ridgeville Union School in Danville. Teacher is the tall one in the back there, Mrs. Mowry. She was the pastor's wife. Probably don't know a lot of these. I could name them, but you probably wouldn't know. But the person to the left of Mrs. Mowry, the teacher there, is my sister Joan. Guy in the front row there in the center is Frank there, his hands in the pocket. And to his right is me, standing there. So, taller than Frank at this point. Passed me eventually there. But, so Mrs. Mowry, you know, one of the things about a school teacher, especially a Christian teacher, is the influence that they can have, an impact they can have on their students. So I've always admired school teachers who are willing to do that occupation. And Sarah, any other school teacher here, 2 of my brothers, Frank and Lee, were school teachers, and 2 of my daughters are school teachers, my daughter-in-law and my daughter Christina. And so what an impact you can have upon life. I had her for 4 years. She was the longest teacher that I had. And what I liked about her was love. They didn't have any children. So all of her children, she poured all her love in her class there. She was very faithful. patient. I think all teachers probably need patience, right? And joy. Isn't it? It's wonderful to have a teacher that has that joy in their heart. This is one of the great characteristics. You could see that she had a great love and enjoyment of what she was doing and teaching, and a joy in the Lord. It's during these first 4 grades that I gave my heart to the Lord in baptism. 10 years old, her husband, George Maury, baptized me, and I gave my life to the Lord. So the next 2 inspiration are people that I did not know personally. I'm going to take you to some people that I did not know, but I do have a connection with. Okay. Can anybody recognize who this person is? Yes, Corrie ten Boom. And my connection to her is when I went over to Europe. I only went over there one time in my life, traveled with the conference leaders there, Will and Ray Hartwell, and a couple others there. We visited the home, or it was a museum there, of Corrie ten Boom. But the story of Corrie ten Boom, her family, they lived in Holland, in the city of Haarlem, I think. Here's her. Here's the house. A corner, they had a business. They were watchmakers. They had business there. Lived also in the house upstairs and in the back there. And but they lived there. And when Germany occupied or overrun Holland, the Netherlands there in 1940, Germans came in there, and of course you know the story of the Germans. They were trying to seek out every Jew in Holland and anywhere they occupied. Now the Corrie ten Boom they were not Jewish. This was not a Jewish family. They were a Christian family. Of course, they wanted to help the Jews. They believed it was wrong what the Germans were doing. They wanted to protect the Jewish family. So they built what they call a hiding place within their home to protect a safety place for the Jews. And of course, they put themselves at heavy risk. That would have severe punishment for them. They would have been imprisoned themselves and probably lose their life, as well as what we will find out. And so they did this, and in the course of time, and I'll show you, in their house, they had a hiding place. Here, Corrie is standing, showing you in a closet door. They opened a closet door. And in the bottom, they had a removable panel where they could crawl in there, and then they would stand behind a wall was partitioned out a little ways. Then there was room for like 6 people, adult-sized people, to stand in there. Now, obviously, they didn't stand in there all the time to hide. They were living in the house quarters the whole time. Only when there was a threat, when Germans were going to come, or the Jew officers, they had a buzzer system that sounded, and within a minute or so, everybody could get into that secret place there. But they ate, did other things in the house, and that threat wasn't going on there. It is estimated they saved 800 Jews during that time. Very Christian family there. This was Will Peterson, who was crawling in there, and Ray Hartwell, the president of the conference. But eventually, somebody reported them to the leaders, and they came there. The Germans broke into the house. They took him prisoner. Father died not too long after that as well. 2 daughters there, Corrie and Betsy, I believe is her sister, were taken to Ravensbrück concentration camp and beaten and put in a work camp there. And her sister died there while they were there, by the cruelty and sickness there that took place in that camp. And Corrie Ten Boom herself only got out because of a clerical mistake. And otherwise, she would have been killed. They were going to kill all the older ladies just shortly after that. So she was out by a miracle. She lived to be 100 years of age there. But she spent that lifetime going about and telling her story about God and her love. One of the things I'm going to encourage you to watch this movie called The Hiding Place. You can watch it online free if you have Roku or something there, called The Hiding Place. And you'll really be inspired by the story that comes out. One of the most impressive thing was when they were in this camp there, in the prison camp, concentration camp there. They tried to share God to the other ladies there in the camp. Ladies said, how can you believe in God? Where's God now? Why isn't he doing something? Why is he just standing true in the evil that was going place? People would have to be very strong in their faith not to question God, and they held firm, strong all that time. Yeah, there's other ones that open the truth up about. And the other thing too is her forgiveness. Later on, when she was given testimonies and sharing about the story of her experience, one of the guards from that camp that she was there, he didn't recognize her, but she recognized him, came forward. He had later given his life to the Lord and asked forgiveness for all the brutality and cruelty that he did. And he was asking her to give forgiveness to him as well. And she could feel it was not something easy to do because of all the memory, especially of her own sister dying, all this. But the Lord helped her take his hand and say she accepted his for that. Our forgiveness. So it's a very moving testimony, one that certainly can have an impact, and it has had on me as well. Okay, the next one I'm going to share with you, a person that really was never even alive when I was living. Probably not for many of you either. But especially as a guy in life, we have interest in sports. A lot of us end up picking teams that we like, and sometimes we have heroes, or what you might say, fans of certain individuals who we adore and like life, and we have interest in them. Of course, I've always loved baseball, football, and basketball. But the person, one of the most inspirational figures that appeared to me in life is another person. I'm sure you heard his name before. You may not recognize the picture, or the person right here, but his name is Lou Gehrig. And so Lou Gehrig died before I knew him, but his inspirational life, a bit, it made me attracted to follow the Yankees as well, the favorite team down through time. Babe Ruth played during the time, Lou Gehrig played during the time Babe Ruth, who was, is one of the most recognized players of all time, considered maybe the greatest baseball player, but Babe Ruth had a big ego. Lou Gehrig was one of the greatest hitters of all time as well, but he was a sharply different person than Babe Ruth. He was very quiet. He was a very humble person. One of the greatest hitters of all time, 340 batting average, Triple Crown winner, considered the greatest first baseman ever to played. The most astonishing thing, he played in 130 consecutive games. That's over 14 years playing without missing a game. He's playing with broken fingers, a concussion, bruises. He would not want to be taken out of the game. This type of dedication and commitment is not very present today in the sports world. Today you look around and people admonish, look at some of the stars today, and this is the frustrating thing to see. People are paid millions of dollars, and yet they're always injured. They're always out, not playing at all. But Lou Gehrig was not that. Of course, his record was broken once by Cal Ripken Jr., which I really adored as well in him. But Lou Gehrig probably would have continued on longer. But as you know, he was only 35 years of age when he came to realize there's something wrong with his body. He wasn't hitting the ball. His muscles were numb. He couldn't move. Finally had to take himself out because he was not looking good at the plate or in the field. And so he stopped playing there in 1939, and he went to get checked out at the Mayo Clinic, and they discovered that he had a rare disease called ALS, which I can't pronounce all the names there, but a lot of us refer to, that's where the name Lou Gehrig disease comes from today, that people hear it, which is a disease that has no cure, disease that will, your muscles and everything eventually just carry it away to nothing. Your mind is still there, but everything else until actually muscles of your lungs even collapse and dreadful death. One of my cousins also got the same disease, passed away. He was a little older than me at that time, but one of the amazing things about Lou Gehrig is right after they discovered this dreadful disease, Yankees wanted to honor him. They wanted to recognize him. So on July the 4th, 1939, they had a special day at Yankee Stadium to honor him and to give him awards. They brought in a lot of the former players that he played with there. And then Lou Gehrig had prepared some speech the night before, what to say, but he didn't bring it with him. And when he was there, he didn't really want to get up and say anything. That was the type of person he was. He was not one to be open up to do it, but he got up, and people consider what he sped that day one of the greatest speeches ever given, called the Gettysburg Address in baseball. So just sharing just a brief thing. It said, he got up there and he said, "Fans, for the past 2 weeks, you have been reading about the bad break I got. Yet today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of this earth. I have been in ballparks for 17 years, and I have never received anything but kindness and encouragement from you, fans." You know, despite facing this gloomy news there at age 35, knowing he's done, all he did to express to saying how lucky he was, how blessed he was to be given a chance and opportunity by the owners of the team, by the managers that were there, by all the players that he played with. He acknowledged how loving and caring his parents were, wife's parents, his own wife. Acknowledged he was greatly blessed by such a devoted wife. And the last words that he said there, he said, "I close in saying that I have a tough break, but I have a lawful lot." I think about, what courage and bravery did he give to those who face the same circumstance? Hear bad news about that. But he looked back at all the blessings and all the blessings that he had in the life that was cut short. So here's another film you could watch as well, free. called The Pride of the Yankees. And let me say, one of the things I didn't mention is this film will depict the love he had between his wife dramatically. It'll be far better than any Hallmark movie, ladies, or anybody else that loves to watch, guarantee. So I encourage you to watch this film called Pride of the Yankees. Now, the last one I said is alive today and here. So let me show you that. Right? So people, everyone here today is the ones that's had an impact, impression upon you. Even if you're not in this picture here, you've had an impact or impression on me, and it made an input. So I thank you for that. Even every love, every smile, every greeting, every act of service that you do has given an impression of goodness to me in my life. And I thank everybody for that. It increases and blesses my faith. And just think about that, important. Everything that you do has an impact on everything. Yesterday, I was, Christina asked me to come and pick up Lily. She had a half day of school. And they had a full day at their school, but for some reason, this school was getting out a half a day early, and nobody was able to pick her up from school and watch her for several hours until they got out. So I was able to go down there. I was going to go down, picked her up, went out to eat a little bit, and then we went over to the park. She wanted to play at the park there. And while we was at the park, there was other girls there that was there playing, and she enjoyed playing with these other girls and all of the different things there at the park, the swings, the seesaw, the climbing, everything at the park there. But what had caught my attention was we had a great time there, was Lily on her own. She didn't know any of these children there. But before we left, he went up to these children and hugged these children. He hugged the mother of the children. So that brings an impression on your heart, about how she is being molded to love other people. So I think that, children can have an impact on you, how important it is. Love, show compassion and forgiveness to other people. The last thing I want you to think about here today is, who is the one that really, truly inspires any of us? Who is it that's really the driving force behind it all? Jesus, right? Jesus is the one who set forth the great example that has influenced all these things that we love to see in people. And we think about Jesus. He's the one. It's his sacrificial love for you and for me. It's his example of unselfish service for others that draws us to follow him. So as we look about that, it's not I, Christ. That's our closing song. When I was trying to think about a text or a song here today, I thought of this song here, because that's really heaven. I think of the Apostle Paul's verse. He says, I've been crucified with Christ, but it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life which he now lives, I live in the flesh. I live by the faith in the Son of God who loved me, gave himself. So let's think of how we can be good influence. I invite you to we'll sing our closing song at this time.